infamous White-Capel killings. In the autumn of 1888, London was a city choked by fog, poverty, and fear. Queen Victoria reigned over a vast empire, but in the dark alleys of White-Capel, a different kind of terror was taking hold. It was a terror born not of foreign wars or political unrest, but of something far more primal. A killer stalking the streets, leaving a trail of unspeakable brutality in his wake. The air hung thick with the stench of coal smoke and desperation, a perfect breeding ground for shadows and secrets. The Ripper, as he would soon be known, was about to etch his name into the annals of crime, forever staining the Victorian era with blood and dread. The stage was set for drama that would captivate and horrify the world. The East End of London was a labyrinth of narrow lanes, overcrowded tenements, and desperate souls. Prostitution was rampant, a grim necessity for many women struggling to survive in the face of crushing poverty. It was in this wretched landscape that the Ripper chose his victims, women of the night, vulnerable and easily overlooked. Mary Ann Nichols, found brutally murdered in Bucks Row on August 31st, 1888, was the first to fall. Her throat was slashed, and her abdomen ripped open, a horrifying tableau that hinted at the madness to come. Little did anyone know, this was just the opening act in a gruesome play that would plunge White-Capel into a state of utter panic. The initial shock quickly turned to a chilling realization. This was no ordinary murder. The discovery of Annie Chapman's body just a week later, on September 8th, confirmed the worst fears. Her injuries were even more savage than Nichols', suggesting a killer with surgical knowledge, or perhaps more disturbingly, a frenzied rage. The police investigation, led by Detective Inspector Frederick Aberline, was hampered by the sheer scale of the poverty and squalor. Witnesses were unreliable, and the local population, distrustful of the authorities, were reluctant to cooperate. Rumors spread like wildfire through the dimly lit streets, fueled by sensationalist newspaper reports that painted a lurid picture of the killer. Some whispered of a Jewish ritual murderer, others of a deranged doctor, and still others of a man driven mad by syphilis. The double event of September 30th sent White-Capel into a frenzy of terror. The bodies of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were discovered within an hour of each other. Their murders even more gruesome than before. Stride's murder was less savage, leading some to believe the Ripper had been interrupted. Eddowes, however, was mutilated beyond recognition, and a piece of her apron was found later near Galston Street, bearing a cryptic message scrawled in chalk. The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. This message, quickly scrubbed away by police fearing anti-Semitic riots, became a key piece of evidence, yet also a source of endless debate. Was it a clue left by the killer, or a cruel hoax designed to incite hatred? The Dear Boss letter, received by the Central News Agency on September 27th and attributed to the killer, added a chillingly theatrical dimension to the case. Signed, Jack the Ripper, the letter mocked the police and promised further atrocities, while many such letters were received. This one, along with the saucy Jackie postcard, is considered by some to be genuinely from the killer, due to its details mirroring the murders. The name Jack the Ripper stuck, instantly transforming a brutal murderer into a legendary figure of terror. The newspapers seized upon the name, fueling the public's morbid fascination and creating a media sensation that spread far beyond the streets of Whitecapel. The Ripper had become a monster of the modern age, a phantom lurking in the shadows of the world's greatest city. The murder of Mary Jane Kelly on November 9th was the most horrific of all. Found in her room at Miller's Court, her body was almost entirely dismembered, a scene of unimaginable carnage. Kelly's murder marked a turning point in the investigation. The sheer brutality suggested that the Ripper's madness was escalating, but it also raised a disturbing question. How could such a gruesome act have been committed without anyone noticing? The location, a private room, indicated a level of planning and control that was absent in the earlier murders. Some theories suggest Kelly knew her killer, and the location provided a false sense of security. The police investigation was intensifying, but progress was slow and frustrating. Suspects were questioned, alibis were checked, and the streets were patrolled more heavily. But the Ripper remained elusive. Among the many names that surfaced was Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant living in Whitecapel, who was identified by a witness as possibly being the man seen with one of the victims. Another suspect was Montague John Drute, a barrister who committed suicide shortly after the final murder. Both men remain prime suspects, but neither could ever be definitively linked to the crimes. The investigation was plagued by false leads, conflicting witness statements, and the sheer difficulty of tracking a killer in the crowded, chaotic streets of Whitecapel. Sir William Gull, the royal physician, was a dark horse candidate whispered about in conspiracy circles. The theory, popularized in fiction and film, suggests Gull, on orders from the royal family, was silencing women who knew too much about a scandalous affair involving Prince Albert Victor. While lacking concrete evidence, the theory plays on the societal paranoia of the time and the public's distrust of the upper classes. The Masonic angle, tied to supposed symbols found at the crime scenes, adds another layer of intrigue and is often woven into the royal conspiracy theory. The enduring appeal lies in its scandalous nature, hinting at a cover-up at the highest levels of British society. The investigation into the Ripper murders transformed policing in London. The Metropolitan Police Force, already struggling to cope with the challenges of a rapidly growing city, was forced to adopt new techniques and technologies. Forensic science was in its infancy, but the Ripper case pushed investigators to explore new methods of gathering and analyzing evidence. The creation of CID Criminal Investigation Department and improved record-keeping were some of the outcomes. The public outcry over the Ripper murders also led to increased pressure on the government to address the social problems of the East End. While the Ripper himself remained uncaught, his crimes sparked a wave of social reform that aimed to improve the lives of the city's poorest residents. A disturbing twist emerges from the archives. A series of letters sent to the police, initially dismissed as the work of cranks, displayed an uncanny knowledge of the crime scenes. One letter, supposedly from a local businessman, described in chilling detail the layout of Mary Jane Kelly's room before the murder scene was even discovered by police. The authorities suppress vital information or a credible confession to protect the image of London. The chilling implication is that the Ripper case may have been deliberately obscured, sacrificed to maintain order and preserve the status quo. The abrupt end to the killings remains one of the the biggest mysteries of the case. After Mary Jane Kelly's murder, the Ripper simply vanished, leaving no further trace. Some believe he died, either by suicide or from illness. Others theorize that he was institutionalized, perhaps in a mental asylum, his identity forever hidden behind the walls of the Victorian medical system. A more sinister possibility is that he simply stopped, satisfied with the terror he had unleashed, or perhaps moving on to other victims in another city, another country. The silence that followed Kelly's murder only amplified the mystery, leaving the public to speculate endlessly about the fate of Jack the Ripper. Consider the possibility that the Ripper was not one man, but two. The murders of Stride and Eddowes within the same hour on September 30th suggest a collaboration, or at least a copycat killer, inspired by the Ripper's notoriety. Perhaps one man committed the initial slayings, and another, emboldened by the publicity, attempted to replicate the crimes. The Galston Street graffito, seemingly unrelated to either victim, adds another layer of uncertainty. Was it left by one of the killers, a witness, or someone entirely unconnected to the murders? This theory, while controversial, could explain the inconsistencies in the crime scenes and the varying levels of skill displayed by the perpetrator. As years turned into decades, the legend of Jack the Ripper only grew, fueled by countless books, films, and documentaries. The Ripper became a symbol of Victorian darkness, a terrifying embodiment of the hidden horrors that lurked beneath the surface of respectable society. The fascination with the case persists to this day, drawing amateur sleuths and true crime enthusiasts to the streets of Whitacapel, searching for clues that might finally reveal the Ripper's identity. The unsolved nature of the case ensures its enduring appeal, a constant reminder that even in the age of modern forensics, some mysteries may never be solved. The irony of the Ripper case lies in its enduring legacy. The killer sought to terrorize and destroy, but instead, he inadvertently sparked a wave of social reform and transformed the landscape of criminal investigation. The very name Jack the Ripper, once a source of fear and dread, has become a cultural icon, a symbol of the dark side of human nature. His actions, intended to sow chaos and destruction, ultimately led to positive change, albeit at a terrible cost. The streets of Whitacapel, once synonymous with poverty and despair, have been transformed by tourism, forever haunted by the ghost of the Ripper. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Ripper mystery is this: we may never know the truth. The passage of time has obscured the evidence, and the memories of those who lived through the terror have long since faded. The Ripper's identity remains a matter of speculation, a puzzle with missing pieces that can never be recovered. Yet, in a strange way, this uncertainty is what keeps the legend alive, fueling our fascination with the case and reminding us that even in the modern age, darkness can still lurk in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed. The case is closed, yet the mystery endures, forever etched in the collective consciousness. The final twist, the ultimate irony, is this: Jack the Ripper, the monster who haunted the streets of Whitacapel, achieved a form of immortality. He may have vanished into the fog, but his name lives on, a chilling testament to the enduring power of fear and the enduring allure of the unsolved. He became more than a man. He became an idea, a symbol of primal evil, forever stalking the shadows of our imagination. Perhaps that was his true goal all along, not just to kill,